third reactor was rocked by an explosion, and a fourth caught fire. In a brief address to that nation today, the country's prime minister urged calm, but said there was a, quote, very high risk of further leakage. After an emergency cabinet meeting, the Japanese government also warned 140,000 people living within roughly 18 miles of that plant to stay indoors to avoid exposure. Now, the most critical questions over the next day really are how much radioactive material spewed into the atmosphere and where will the winds carry it. Already near the plant, officials reported radiation up to 100 times normal levels. So while those figures are alarming, if there is prolonged exposure, the good news is that they are far from fatal at this point. Fortunately, winds also largely sweeping most of the plume of radioactivity out into the Pacific Ocean and away from those cities. For more on this, we want to get right to NBC's Kristen Dahlgren. She is joining us by phone now from Tokyo with the latest. Kristen, good morning to you. Tokyo also reporting slightly elevated radiation levels this morning. There has got to be growing concern among the residents there, a national population of 128 million people. What is the primary concern?
Yeah, good morning, Peter. Well, the winds actually, according to our experts, are now blowing it towards Tokyo a little bit. As you mentioned, there have been elevated radiation levels. Here, nothing that officials think is a health concern at this point, but you can imagine the sense of panic that really seems to be growing among people here and in the surrounding areas watching this disaster unfold. Here's the latest that we know from the past 24 hours or so. We did see an explosion at that crippled plant in the third reactor, and then a fire in a fourth reactor at a spent fuel storage pond. And the latest that we're hearing is that that pool containing the spent fuel may actually be boiling and that the water level may be falling. So that's according to the Tokyo Electric Power Company, who is the operator of that reactor. So a huge concern as they continue to watch that. The fire believed to be out at this point, but there were some reports that radiation from that may have been leaking directly into the atmosphere, and so they're watching that very closely. As you mentioned, Japan's prime minister went on a national televised address here earlier today, and he urged 140,000 people that haven't evacuated in this 20-mile radius from around that plant to now stay indoors. And so there really is a growing sense that things are still developing here, and we could possibly be looking at things getting worse as this does develop.
Kristen, clearly we're going to focus on that as the day moves forward and hope that it only gets better there.